Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Let me just take a moment to introduce our sponsors for today. This episode is kindly being sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. WLC is a complete A to Z Amazon account management service. So if you're looking to start an e-commerce business or you already have a business that you want to take to the next level, then get in touch and WLC will be able to help. Just for transparency purposes, let me also mention that WLC is a company that I personally created and am a director of. So when you get in touch with WLC, you will be speaking with directly myself or my team, and we very much look forward to speaking with you to see how we can serve your needs. Thank you. And with that said, let's get back to the episode. I think that makes a lot of sense. If I look at the two main things that like corruption and democracy, because corruption is a problem in a bigger problem in countries like Russia, China, Iran, all developing countries, but somehow they manage it better in terms of it doesn't impact the foreign policy of the governments as much
Right.
as it does in the West for some reason. And I think that's because there's a combination of corruption and democracy where everyone is more interested in their personal survival rather than what's best for the country 10, 15, 20 years ahead when
Right.
they're worried about elections in 2 years or 3 years' time and how they're going to survive that. And even here, like when I talk to people in the UK about previous wars, they all kind of say that was a dreadful idea and we should never do anything like that again and we should be more independent. We should stop listening to the USA and stop allowing USA to drive our foreign policy, all of those things. But then as soon as a new war kicks in, everyone's kind of up for it again, exactly as you said.
Right.
But then so that's kind of the situation of the West, that first of all, Europe as a whole has kind of just outsourced its thinking, its foreign policy, everything to the USA. The USA doesn't seem to have like a long-term strategy at all. And their adversaries are countries like Russia, Iran, China, other countries that are thinking not in 5-year terms, but in kind of 100-year terms, 50 years time scale. So I think it's that, and combined with the fact that despite all of the West's shortcomings, there's still a very real force and power, and they have a lot of capacity to cause chaos and destruction in the world. And so it's a very kind of a scary mix of what's going on.
It is. It is. I think that juxtaposition of corruption in the U.S. compared to, say, corruption in Russia and China is something really worth examining. And why do these nations that do have real corruption, why are they able to carry out better policies than the West can? And I'll focus on the U.S. because I'm American and that's what I know best. But certainly you could say that. I'm sure if we had a friend of ours from Germany come on, they could, right? I mean, like Germany's decision, right, to what the German government has done, particularly say backing the Ukraine war and the havoc it has wreaked on Germany.
It's unbelievable,
right? How is that decision made? And I have an appreciation for those states that fall under the American empire, particularly those who are, they see themselves first among equals, and their need to continue to be in favor with the empire, as well as seeing the benefits of being that. And these nations, of course, were once imperial powers themselves. I'm not sure where you live, Tafim, in London, but you probably don't have to walk too far to find a statue of some former conquering admiral or general or somebody, right? And the same goes for Berlin or Copenhagen or, wherever, so there is all that, but it is you see these nations that are corrupt. I don't doubt the stories about Vladimir Putin's vast wealth and mansions and all that. I'm sure some of it's exaggerated, but I have no pretensions that he's not thuggish in many ways, but he's very competent. He's very capable. And there is corruption throughout the Russian government. And you see purges at times. You've seen senior Russian generals and officials within, say, their Ministry of Defense, within their military, being arrested for corruption, very serious corruption that keeps stuff away from the front lines, right? I mean, so harms their actually war fighting efforts, harms their soldiers. But still, they're able to carry out policies that make sense viewed from the Russian perspective, right? So how is that? And I think you could say the same about China, too. I mean, China, the Chinese themselves say, we have a serious issue with corruption, yet they're still able to carry out policies that, lifted 500 million people out of poverty? Like, how are they able to do both? You know, and I think it's because, as you said, it's a different form of corruption, and the political system is different. And our corruption is not about self-enrichment, but about staying in power. And, you know, there's a lot of really great analysis on American corruption and politics. A lot of blame gets put on television, just to, you know, go down this path for a short moment, in the sense that up until the time of television, radio really starts it, but up until the time of television, corruption in American politics was much more of the, I will pay you to deliver this, right? So in a sense of like, I want the road built, here's the envelope and the cash to get the road built. After television, when campaigns became so expensive because of the requirement to advertise on TV, and this again begins with radio, but really with television, it becomes much more of a corruption where the politician is owned, right? Where the politician is bought ahead of time to ensure how they act, as opposed to being, hey, this bill's coming up, we've got to pay this guy off, right? And so it's about staying in power for American politicians, whereas maybe in other countries, it's about self-enrichment, as you were saying. I think a lot of times people are shocked when they look at American political corruption scandals and see how much money is actually involved, because it's oftentimes not a lot of money. You could buy American politicians and own them for not a lot of money, You know, I think, but that's a really, interesting, I think, examination to conduct. Why is our corruption so much worse than other countries' corruption in terms of being able to affect what's in our national interest?
Exactly.